Okay, so imagine this. You're in your garage, but you're not building a regular car.
Yeah.
You're building a Ferrari. And you're doing it using spare parts from like a Chevy in picture. Sounds kind of wild, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's the kind of buzz that DeepSeek R1 is creating in the AI world.
Really?
It's this Chinese open source model that's making everyone rethink what's even possible.
And it's so captivating because it seems to be performing on par with some of the top American models that are out there.
Really?
But here's the kicker. It was reportedly developed for a fraction of the cost.
Like how much are we talking about?
Under $6 million.
Wow.
Compared to the billions invested by, its competitors.
It's a huge difference.
Huge difference. And there's even speculation that they pulled this off without relying on those pricey, top-of-the-line NVIDIA chips.
So it's like they found a secret shortcut.
Yeah.
A way to achieve similar results with a fraction of the resources.
Right.
I think for our listeners, let's break down what DeepSeek R1 actually is, because we keep hearing it described as a distilled language model. And that sounds pretty high-tech, so what's the deal with that?
So imagine you have a seasoned expert, right? A master craftsman who's spent years honing their skills.
Okay.
They don't need to pass on every single bit of their knowledge to an apprentice.
Yeah.
They can really just focus on the core techniques, the essential knowledge that will allow the apprentice to excel.
Right.
And that's essentially what's happening with DeepSeek R1.
So DeepSeek R1 is like the apprentice in this scenario.
Precisely.
Learning from the masters.
It's learning from larger, more complex models like GPT-4 and Meta's Llama.
Oh, okay.
But instead of trying to mirror their massive size and computational demands, DeepSeek R1 is all about mastering the outputs,
Okay.
the answers, the solutions for a whole spectrum of tasks.
Got it.
Yeah.
So instead of needing to understand the entire inner workings of a complex machine,
Right.
it's learning to achieve the same outcomes, the same results.
Yeah.
That's pretty fascinating.
And there's another layer to this. It's not just learning from one master. It's like having a panel of experts, each with their own specialty, all teaching the student.
Right.
DeepSeek R1 is trained on multiple large models,
Oh, wow.
giving it a more well-rounded education, so to speak.
So it's taking the best from different AI models and combining them into something new.
That's a good way to put it.
That's pretty clever.
Yeah.
What are the big advantages of this approach, besides, being super cost effective?
Yeah, well, one of the most significant advantages is accessibility.
Okay.
DeepSeek R1 doesn't need those massive data centers that only these tech giants can afford.
Right.
It can run on readily available hardware.
So like what?
A decent laptop or even a Raspberry Pi, which you can get for just a couple $100.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is what has people comparing it to the PC revolution, right?
Right.
Back in the day, mainframes were the only game in town, but PCs came along and suddenly everyone had access to computing power. Could DeepSeek R1 do the same for AI?
That's the potential disruption we're talking about. It's suddenly making AI tools available to smaller companies, researchers, even hobbyists.
Oh, wow. This could lead to an explosion of innovation with tailored AI models for specific industries.
Right.
Or even privacy-focused AI running locally on your own devices.
Exactly.
That's wild. We could see personalized AI assistants, AI helping doctors diagnose illnesses in remote areas. The possibilities are kind of mind-boggling.
Yeah,
But every new technology has its limitations.
of course.
So what are some potential drawbacks we need to consider with DeepSeek R1?
While DeepSeek R1 offers a lot of promise, it's important to remember that smaller models have inherent limitations. Think of it like this. They may excel in certain tasks, but might lack the depth and breadth of knowledge of their larger counterparts.
So it's a trade-off between accessibility and capability.
To some extent, yes.
You gain the ability to run these models on more readily available hardware,
Right.
but you might sacrifice some of the power and complexity.
Yeah, it's like having a pocket dictionary versus a comprehensive encyclopedia.
But-
Those are valuable tools, but they serve different purposes.
For sure. And then there's also the issue of hallucinations,
Yes,
where AI generates responses that are confidently incorrect.
right.
Does DeepSeek R1 face that same issue?
Smaller models can be more susceptible to these hallucinations, especially if they haven't been trained on a wide enough range of data. It's something researchers are actively working to address.
Okay.
And then there are the inherent biases that any AI model can pick up from its training data.
That's a critical point. If DeepSeek R1 is learning from existing models, it could inherit any biases or limitations present in those models.
That's right.
So how do we ensure that these potential drawbacks don't overshadow the benefits?
Transparency and careful scrutiny are essential. We need to understand how these models work, what data they're trained on, and what potential biases they might exhibit, especially given the potential for rapid, widespread adoption.
So while the prospect of accessible and affordable AI is incredibly exciting, we need to proceed with caution, ensuring that we're developing and deploying these models responsibly. Which brings us to the big question. What kind of impact could DeepSeek R1 actually have on the AI landscape? Is this just a momentary ripple, or are we witnessing the beginning of a massive wave?
It's too early to say for sure, but the potential for disruption is undeniable. Think about it, if a relatively small team in China can develop a model that rivals the performance of those created by tech giants with vastly greater resources, what does that tell us about the future of AI development?
It's a good question.
Yeah. Does it mean that the race to build bigger and bigger models might be missing a crucial element?
That's a provocative thought.
Yeah.
What if instead of focusing solely on building these massive resource-intensive models, we shift our attention to making AI more accessible, more efficient, and more tailored to specific needs?
That's precisely the question DeepSeek R1 is forcing us to confront. It's challenging the status quo and pushing the big players to reconsider their strategies. If a model that costs under $6 million to develop can perform similarly to one that costs billions, it puts pressure on companies like OpenAI and Google to justify their pricing models and business practices.
And what about the impact on American AI companies? Some are saying this could be a major blow to their dominance.
Well, it certainly injects a new level of competition. If DeepSeek R1 proves to be reliable and scalable, it could attract developers and businesses away from US-developed models. This could potentially impact revenue streams and even stock valuations for companies heavily reliant on AI.
Then there's the whole SCOP angle.
Right.
The idea that this might be a strategic move by China to disrupt the Western AI landscape.
It's a theory worth considering. If the reported development cost is accurate, it raises the question of whether China might be intentionally demonstrating that advanced AI development is more attainable and less costly than previously perceived.
Like a way of demystifying AI development and leveling the playing field.
Exactly.
Potentially shifting the global balance of power in technology.
And that could have far-reaching implications, not just for the tech industry, but for global technological competition and even national security.
Right. It's not just about some abstract competition.
Right.
It's about the tools and technologies that will shape our world, our work, and our everyday experiences.
And DeepSeek R1 is a signal that the future of AI might look drastically different than we envisioned.
Yeah.
It could be more accessible, more diverse, and possibly even more unpredictable.
So the question becomes, is DeepSeek R1 just a cheaper alternative? Or is it the spark that ignites a fundamental shift in how we develop and access AI? What if it triggers a wave of innovation, not just in China, but around the world?
Right.
What if it empowers individuals and smaller organizations to create and utilize AI in ways we haven't even imagined yet?
These are all questions worth exploring, and that's what makes DeepSeek R1 so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's not just about the technology itself, it's about the possibilities it unlocks, the questions it raises, and the potential it holds to reshape the future of AI.
We've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
We have.
But there's so much more to explore, especially the technical nuts and bolts of how DeepSeek R1 actually works.
Definitely. In the next part, we'll delve deeper into the technology behind DeepSeek R1, the clever techniques that allow it to achieve such impressive performance with limited resources.
So buckle up because we're about to get technical. We'll be right back after a quick break.
Sounds good. So welcome back. Before the break, we were discussing the potential impact of DeepSeek R1 and some of the questions it raises about the future of AI development. Now, let's kind of shift gears a little bit and dive into the technical side of things. How does this model actually work?
Yeah, I'm really curious about the nuts and bolts. How does DeepSeek R1 manage to achieve comparable performance to these massive resource-intensive models while being so much smaller and more efficient? Seems like a magic trick.
It's not magic, but it is pretty ingenious. The key lies in a technique called knowledge distillation.
Okay.
Imagine you have a vast library filled with books on every subject imaginable. Instead of trying to copy the entire library, you create a condensed version, focusing on the most important and frequently used information.
Got it.
That's essentially what knowledge distillation does for AI models.
So instead of replicating the entire complex structure of a model like GPT-4 DeepSeek R1 is more like a concentrated essence, capturing the essential knowledge without all the extra baggage.
Precisely. It's about extracting the core knowledge and decision-making processes of a larger model and compressing them into a more compact, efficient form.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do you actually distill the knowledge from a larger model into a smaller one? What does that process look like?
It involves a specialized training process. DeepSeek R1 is fed a massive data set of questions and prompts. And the larger model, let's say GPT-4, provides the correct answers or outputs for this data set.
So DeepSeek R1 is essentially learning by example, observing how the expert model responds to a wide range of inputs.
Exactly. And here's the crucial part. DeepSeek R1 isn't simply memorizing the answers, it's learning to generalize from these examples, developing its own internal representations of knowledge and decision-making logic.
So it's like a student who's not just cramming for a test, but actually trying to understand the underlying concepts and principles.
That's a great analogy. And this is where DeepSeek R1's use of multiple large models for training becomes really important. By learning from a diverse set of teachers, it gains a broader and more robust understanding of language and concepts.
It's like having a team of tutors, each with their own area of expertise, guiding the student's development. That seems like a much more effective way to learn.
Absolutely. And this approach helps mitigate some of the potential drawbacks we talked about earlier. For example, by learning from models trained on different data sets, DeepSeek R1 can reduce the risk of inheriting specific biases from any single source.
So it's like getting a well-rounded education, exposed to different perspectives and ways of thinking. This helps ensure that DeepSeek R1 doesn't develop a narrow or skewed view of the world, right?
Precisely. And there's another fascinating technical aspect to DeepSeek R1's development. It reportedly utilizes a technique called quantization. This plays a key role in its efficiency.
Okay, quantization. That sounds a bit intimidating. Can you break that down for us? What does it actually do?
In simple terms, quantization involves reducing the precision of the numerical values used in the model's calculations.
Okay.
Instead of using very precise numbers, which require a lot of memory and processing power, it uses approximations.
So it's like rounding off numbers to make them easier to work with. Does that really make a significant difference in terms of efficiency?
It might seem counterintuitive, but it actually has a huge impact. By using slightly less precise numbers, you can dramatically reduce the model's memory footprint and computational demands without sacrificing too much accuracy.
So it's like finding a clever shortcut that allows you to achieve similar results with less effort. It's brilliant.
Exactly, and this is one of the key factors that enables DeepSeek R1 to run on devices like laptops and Raspberry Pis, which have limited processing power compared to those massive data centers.
That's incredible. It really opens up the possibilities for where and how we can use AI. Speaking of possibilities, let's talk about some of the potential applications of DeepSeek R1. We touched on personalized AI assistants and privacy-focused local AI earlier. Can you give us some more concrete examples of how this technology could be used in the real world?
Absolutely. One area where DeepSeek R1 could have a significant impact is education.
Okay.
Imagine students having access to personalized AI tutors that can adapt to their individual learning styles and pace. These tutors could provide targeted feedback and support, helping students grasp difficult concepts and excel in their studies.
That would be a game changer, especially for students who struggle in traditional classroom settings or who don't have access to quality teachers.
Exactly. It could democratize access to education and empower individuals to learn at their own pace, regardless of their background or location.
What about other fields? Where else could we see DeepSeek R1 making a difference?
Another promising application is in healthcare.
Okay.
DeepSeek R1 could be used to develop AI-powered diagnostic tools that can analyze medical images like X-rays or CT scans to detect abnormalities.
So instead of relying solely on human interpretation, which can be subjective and prone to error, we could have AI algorithms assisting doctors in making faster and more accurate diagnoses.
Precisely. And this could be especially beneficial in areas where access to specialized medical professionals is limited. Imagine a small clinic in a remote village having access to an AI-powered diagnostic tool that can help identify serious conditions early on. It could potentially save lives.
That's incredible. It seems like the potential applications are endless.
No.
What about creative fields? Could DeepSeek R1 be used in areas like writing, music, or art?
Absolutely. Instead of replacing human creativity, DeepSeek R1 could become a powerful tool for augmenting it. Imagine writers using DeepSeek R1 to brainstorm ideas, overcome writer's block, or even translate their work into different languages, making it accessible to a global audience.
So it's not about AI taking over creative jobs, but rather about AI empowering creators to push the boundaries of what's possible. That's a much more optimistic outlook.
And it's not just limited to writing. Musicians could use DeepSeek R1 to experiment with the different sounds and melodies, while artists could explore new visual styles and techniques.
It's like having an AI collaborator, a partner in the creative process. That's really exciting. But with all this talk about the potential benefits of DeepSeek R1, we also need to address the concerns that people have about AI in general.
Yeah.
What about the potential for job displacement, algorithmic bias, and even the misuse of AI for malicious purposes?
Yeah.
These are serious issues that we can't just ignore.
You're absolutely right. It's crucial that we develop and deploy AI responsibly with careful consideration of its ethical implications and potential societal impacts.
So while we embrace the possibilities, we also need to be vigilant about the potential risks.
Exactly, and that's where open source models like DeepSeek R1 can actually be beneficial. By making the technology more transparent and accessible, they allow for greater scrutiny and collaboration in addressing these challenges.
It's like having more eyes on the code, more people involved in shaping the development and deployment of AI to ensure that it's used for good.
Precisely. And that's why the release of DeepSeek R1 is so significant. It's not just about the technology itself, but about the broader conversations it's sparking about the future of AI and its role in our world.
Well said. We've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive, exploring the technical workings of DeepSeek R1 and its potential applications across various fields. But there's one crucial aspect we haven't delved into yet, its potential impact on the global landscape.
Yes, remember Mark Andreessen's Sputnik moment analogy? DeepSeek R1's emergence signals a shift in the balance of power in the AI world, with implications that extend far beyond the realm of technology.
Exactly. So, in the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore the geopolitical ramifications of DeepSeek R1, examining how it's challenging existing power structures and what this means for the future of global technological competition.
We'll also discuss the potential for collaboration and cooperation in AI development and how we can navigate the ethical and societal challenges that lie ahead.
Stay tuned for the final part of our exploration of DeepSeek R1, where we'll unravel the geopolitical implications of this game-changing technology. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been unpacking the emergence of DeepSeek R1, this groundbreaking AI model from China. We've delved into the technology, we've explored its potential applications, but now it's time to talk about the elephant in the room, the geopolitical implications. This is where things get really interesting.
You know, remember Mark Andreessen dubbed DeepSeek R1 a Sputnik moment?
Right.
And that comparison carries a lot of weight.
Yeah. For those who might not be familiar with that historical reference, can you unpack what makes that analogy so significant?
Sure. So in 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik, the first artificial satellite to orbit Earth.
Okay.
And it really caught the United States off guard, triggered a wave of anxiety and a sense of urgency to catch up in the space race. DeepSeek R1 is being viewed through a similar lens, a demonstration of China's rapidly advancing technological capabilities. That has the potential to challenge U.S. dominance in a field with immense strategic importance.
It's like a wake-up call.
Yeah.
A sign that the global tech landscape is shifting and at a rapid pace.
Exactly. It forces us to re-examine long-held assumptions. For years, the prevailing narrative has been that the U.S. and its allies hold a commanding lead in AI development.
Right.
But DeepSeek R1 suggests that the gap might be closing, and in some areas, China might even be surging ahead.
Which begs the question, what's fueling this rapid progress in Chinese AI? Is it just about resources, or is there something more at play?
There are several factors contributing to China's AI momentum.
Right.
One is the sheer scale of data available in China, with its massive population and widespread adoption of digital technologies. China has access to a treasure trove of data that can be used to train AI models.
It's like having a vast and diverse training ground for these AI algorithms,
Precisely.
allowing them to learn from a wider range of inputs and scenarios.
And then there's the role of the Chinese government, which has made AI development a national priority, investing heavily in research and development.
So it's a combination of data resources and a strategic focus on AI that's propelling China's progress.
Exactly. And DeepSeek R1 is a testament to the effectiveness of this approach.
So where does this leave the U.S.? Is it time to hit the panic button?
I wouldn't say panic, but there's definitely a need for a strategic response. The U.S. can't afford to rest on its laurels. It needs to double down on AI research and development, foster innovation, and attract top talent from around the world.
It's like a high-stakes race. You can't just assume you'll always be in the lead. You have to keep pushing the boundaries, keep innovating, or risk falling behind.
Precisely. And this isn't just about national pride. It's about economic competitiveness, national security, and even the future of global leadership. AI is poised to play a pivotal role in shaping the 21st century.
Yeah.
And the question is, who will be the key players?
That's what's at stake here. DeepSeek R1 has thrown down a gauntlet.
It has.
signaling that the competition is heating up.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got this potential rivalry brewing, but is it all doom and gloom? Is there any room for collaboration in this new AI landscape?
That's a crucial point. While there's undoubtedly competition, there's also potential for cooperation. After all, the challenges posed by AI, such as algorithmic bias, job displacement, and the potential for misuse, are global in nature.
These aren't just American problems or Chinese problems.
Right.
They're human problems that require global solutions.
Exactly. And open source models like DeepSeek R1 can actually facilitate collaboration. By making the technology more transparent and accessible, it allows researchers and developers from around the world to work together to share ideas and expertise and to address these challenges collectively.
So instead of viewing it as a zero-sum game where one country's gain is another's loss, we could approach it as a win-win situation where everyone benefits from shared progress.
Precisely. If we approach AI development with a spirit of openness and collaboration, we can harness its power for good while mitigating its potential risks.
It's like a fork in the road. We can choose the path of competition and rivalry, or we can choose the path of collaboration and shared progress.
And the choice we make will have profound implications for the future.
So for you listening, this isn't just some abstract geopolitical chess match. This is about the future we're creating, the world we want to live in. Do we want a world defined by technological rivalry and division? Or a world where AI is used to solve shared problems and improve lives for everyone?
That's the question we all need to be asking ourselves. DeepSeek R1 has shaken things up. It's challenged assumptions and forced us to confront some uncomfortable truths about the state of AI development and the shifting global landscape.
Yeah, but it's also an opportunity to reevaluate our priorities, to foster innovation, and to shape the future of AI in a way that benefits all of humanity.
Absolutely.
And on that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive into DeepSeek R1. I want to leave you with one final thought. The emergence of DeepSeek R1 is a reminder that the future is not predetermined. It's a future we're actively creating through the choices we make, the investments we prioritize, and the collaborations we forge.
And those choices will determine whether AI becomes a force for good or a source of division and conflict in the years to come.
So let's choose wisely. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.